I spent 35 years wearing the same uniform. For 35 years, I woke up before sunrise, saluted the flag, followed orders, and put my country before myself. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, and even my own father's funeral because duty came first. I never complained. I believed sacrifice meant something. I believed that one day, when I finally retired, my family would be proud of the man I had become. Instead, they try to erase me from my own home. My name is Richard Collins. I'm 66 years old, a retired Army Command Sergeant Major, and everything I own came from decades of hard work. The house wasn't a mansion. It wasn't luxurious, but every brick had a story. I bought the land when I was 28 after my second overseas deployment. I spent years paying off the mortgage while my wife Linda stayed home raising our 2 children. Our daughter, Emily, always appreciated everything. My son, Daniel. Well, Daniel always believed life owed him something. Growing up, Emily worked part-time after school. Daniel quit every job within a week. Emily earned scholarships. Daniel demanded a new truck. Whenever I tried correcting him, Linda would immediately defend him. He's just finding himself, Richard. He'll mature. Stop being so hard on your son. Years passed. Nothing changed. Daniel eventually married a woman named Jessica. The first time I met her, she smiled so sweetly that everyone adored her. Except me. There was something about the way she watched people. She wasn't listening. She was calculating. Within months, Daniel stopped calling unless he needed money. "Dad," he'd say casually, "Jessica and I are struggling a little." I'd help because he was my son. Every single time. After Linda passed away from cancer 3 years ago, I found myself living alone in the family home. The silence hurt, but also brought peace. Until Daniel and Jessica suddenly started visiting every weekend. Jessica cooked dinner. Daniel mowed the lawn. They smiled constantly. Emily pulled me aside one afternoon. "Dad, something feels off." "What do you mean?" "They've ignored you for years. Now, suddenly they're acting like the perfect family." I laughed. Maybe people change. Emily looked at me with worried eyes. "I hope you're right." I wasn't. One Sunday evening, Jessica placed her hand over mine. "Dad, we've been thinking." I hated when conversations started that way. "Our apartment is getting too small," she continued. "And you're all alone here." Daniel nodded enthusiastically. "So, we thought maybe we should move in together." I hesitated. "I've lived alone for years." Jessica smiled. "Exactly. You shouldn't have to." Emily immediately disagreed. "Dad doesn't need caretakers." Jessica's smile disappeared for just a second before returning. "We're only trying to help." Against Emily's advice, I agreed. It became the biggest mistake of my life. The first month wasn't terrible. Then Jessica began changing everything. My favorite chair disappeared. It's outdated. Family photographs came off the walls. They make the house look cluttered. She even rearranged Linda's kitchen. When I quietly moved things back, she rolled her eyes. "Richard, you need to stop living in the past." It wasn't her house. But somehow, she acted like I was the guest. Then came the financial conversations. "Dad," Daniel said over breakfast, "have you thought about putting the house in both our names?" I nearly laughed. "No." Jessica leaned forward. "It'll make things easier if anything ever happens. I'm perfectly healthy." Daniel sighed dramatically. "You're being stubborn." "No." That should have ended the conversation. It didn't. Every week they asked again. Every week my answer stayed the same. Emily visited less often because Jessica made her uncomfortable. Every visit turned into an argument. One afternoon, I overheard Jessica whispering in the kitchen. "If he doesn't sign, we'll do it another way." I stepped inside. "What did you just say?" She smiled instantly. "Oh, nothing." Daniel quickly changed the subject. But I remembered every word. A few days later, I returned from grocery shopping and couldn't unlock my own front door. The locks had been changed. I knocked. Jessica opened the door. "Oh, you're back." "What do you mean I'm back?" "We thought you'd gone to stay with Emily." "This is my house." Daniel finally appeared. "Dad, calm down." "Why can't I get inside?" Jessica crossed her arms. "We needed some privacy." I stared at my own son. "You changed the locks on me." He wouldn't meet my eyes. Eventually, they handed me a key. No apology. No explanation. That night, I barely slept. Something terrible was coming. I could feel it. The next morning, my army friend, Colonel James Walker, stopped by unexpectedly. We'd served together for over 20 years. He looked around the house quietly. "You don't seem happy." I forced a smile. "Just family problems." He lowered his voice. "Richard, trust your instincts." "What makes you say that?" "I've seen this look before." "What look?" "The one soldiers have right before they're betrayed." His words stayed with me long after he left. 2 weeks later, Daniel approached me, carrying paperwork. "It's just estate planning." I didn't even read it. I pushed it back. "I'm not signing anything." His face turned red. "You don't trust your own family?" "I trust actions." Jessica slammed the cabinet door so hard it echoed through the house. For the first time, her mask slipped. "You've become impossible." I looked directly at her. "No, I've simply become careful." That evening, Emily called. "Dad, promise me something." "What?" "If anything strange happens, call me first." I laughed softly. "You're worrying too much." She didn't laugh. "I have a bad feeling." So did I. I just didn't realize how close the nightmare really was. 3 nights later, I woke up to shouting downstairs. Jessica was screaming loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. "Get away from me. You can't threaten me anymore." I rushed downstairs completely confused. "What are you talking about?" She grabbed her phone, tears running down her face. "I'm calling the police." Daniel stood beside her, not looking shocked, not looking confused, just waiting. And in that terrifying moment, I realized this wasn't chaos. It was a plan. I stood frozen in the middle of my own living room while Jessica pointed her shaking finger at me. "You threatened me," she cried. "You said you'd make me disappear if I didn't leave this house." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I just woke up." Daniel stepped between us like a hero in a bad movie. "Dad, stop. You've gone too far." My own son wouldn't even look me in the eye. Within minutes, police officers arrived. One officer asked calmly, "Sir, we'd like to hear your side." "My side?" I replied. "I was asleep." Jessica was sobbing so convincingly that even I almost questioned reality. "He's been intimidating me for months," she whispered. "Tonight, he finally threatened me." The officers searched the house, spoke to everyone separately, and although there wasn't enough evidence to arrest me, they advised me to leave for the night while the matter was investigated. Leave? Leave the home I had spent 35 years paying for? I packed a small bag and drove to Emily's house before sunrise. The moment she opened the door and saw my face, she knew something terrible had happened. "Dad, they finally did it." She hugged me tightly as I explained everything. Emily didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she took a deep breath. I knew they were planning something. The next morning, Daniel's attorney filed emergency paperwork claiming I had become violent, unstable, and dangerous. They asked the court to give Daniel temporary control of the property until the case was resolved. Reading those papers hurt more than any injury I'd suffered in the Army. After surviving combat deployments, leadership battles, and years away from my family, I was now being painted as an abusive old man by the very people I'd sacrificed everything for. Friends stopped calling. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Some even whispered as I walked past. Rumors spread faster than facts. One afternoon, I sat alone on Emily's porch staring at my old military medals. "I gave my life to protect people," I muttered. Emily sat beside me. "You don't have to fight this alone." A week later, my phone rang. It was Colonel James Walker. "Richard," he said, "I heard what's happening. So has everyone else. I don't believe a word of it." His voice carried the same confidence I'd heard on countless missions. "Meet me tomorrow." The following morning, we sat in a quiet coffee shop. James leaned across the table. "Do you remember the security company I recommended after Linda passed away?" I frowned. "The one that installed outdoor cameras?" "Yes." "What about them?" He smiled for the first time. "You told me you also had an indoor voice-activated recorder in your study because you kept important military memorabilia there." I nearly dropped my coffee. The recorder. I had completely forgotten about it. It wasn't hidden for spying. It automatically activated whenever voices were detected inside the study. That room happened to be right beside the living room. If it had been working, it might have captured everything. I rushed home with my attorney to retrieve the backup files that were automatically uploaded to secure cloud storage. For hours, we searched through recordings. Then, we found one dated 3 days before Jessica called the police. Jessica's voice was crystal clear. "If he won't sign the house over willingly," she laughed, "we'll make him look dangerous." Daniel answered quietly, "Are you sure this will work?" "It always works. Once everyone thinks he's unstable, the court will push him out." Then came the sentence that made my attorney's jaw drop. "After we get the house, we'll sell it and move to Florida. Your father won't have anything left to fight for." Silence filled the room. My attorney slowly removed his glasses. "This changes everything." But there was more. The recording from the night of the accusation captured Jessica practicing fake screams before I even came downstairs. "Louder," she told herself. "No, make it sound terrified." A few minutes later, the recorder caught my footsteps. Then my confused voice. "What are you talking about?" Every second matched my story perfectly. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Court day finally arrived. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, family friends, veterans from my old unit. Even local reporters had shown up because of my military background. Jessica entered confidently, dressed like the perfect victim. Daniel walked beside her. Neither of them expected what was coming. Their attorney spent nearly an hour describing me as an angry old soldier who couldn't control his temper. When he finished, my attorney stood. "Your Honor, the defense would like to present digital evidence." The courtroom lights dimmed. The recording began. Jessica's own voice echoed through the speakers. "If he won't sign the house over willingly, we'll make him look dangerous." Every face in the courtroom changed. Daniel's head snapped toward Jessica. She turned completely white. The recording continued. "After we get the house, we'll sell it." Gasps spread through the room. Then the second recording played. Jessica practicing screams, laughing, planning every word. Finally, my confused voice entered. "What are you talking about?" Exactly as I had remembered. The judge stopped the recording. "Mrs. Collins." His voice was calm but firm. "Would you like to explain this?" Jessica couldn't. She simply stared at the floor. Then Colonel James Walker was called to testify. Wearing his decorated uniform, he spoke with quiet dignity. "I served beside Mr. Richard Collins for over 20 years. He repeatedly risked his own life to protect soldiers under his command. His reputation for discipline and integrity is beyond question." He looked directly at Daniel. "I trusted your father with my life. You couldn't trust him with his own home." Those words hit harder than any speech. Daniel broke. He buried his face in his hands. "I messed up," he whispered. "I let her convince me." Jessica immediately interrupted. "This wasn't my fault." But nobody believed her anymore. The judge dismissed every claim against me. He referred the fabricated evidence and fraudulent filings for criminal investigation and ordered that my property rights be fully restored. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. One journalist asked me, "Mr. Collins, after everything your family put you through, what do you want to say?" I looked straight into the cameras. "The Army taught me that honor isn't something you wear. It's something you live, and no lie can survive the truth forever." The clip spread across television and social media. Within days, people who had once avoided me began apologizing. Neighbors brought meals. Veterans visited my home. Complete strangers sent letters thanking me for standing up for the truth. As for Daniel, he stood outside my front door one rainy afternoon. He looked exhausted. "I lost everything," he said quietly. Jessica had left him the moment the case collapsed. She blamed him for not sticking to the story. He looked like a man who had finally understood the cost of betrayal. "Dad, I'm sorry." Real tears rolled down his face. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I answered, "I forgive you. But trust isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with years." He nodded. "I understand." He walked away without asking for money. Without asking for the house. Without asking for anything. It was the first truly grown-up decision I'd ever seen him make. A year later, I established a foundation that provides free legal guidance to veterans facing property fraud and financial exploitation. Emily became its director. Watching her help families reminded me that kindness is never wasted. I renovated the old house, but I kept one room exactly the way Linda had left it. Every morning, I sit there with a cup of coffee and look at the family photos that Jessica once took off the walls. They remind me of two things. First, that love should never require surrendering your dignity. Second, that the greatest victory isn't getting revenge. It's refusing to let betrayal define the rest of your life. After 35 years in the Army, I thought my toughest battle had already been fought. I was wrong. The hardest battle was defending my name against the people I loved most. But in the end, I didn't just get my home back. I got something even more valuable. My honor. And that's one thing no one will ever be able to steal again.